Have you heard about this Benefactor guy? This dude is talking about free energy, but here's the twist. He says it's not free energy. He's calling it energy recycling, which first off is kind of genius, right? Because when you say free energy, people immediately throw you in the crazy bin. But energy recycling, that sounds like some next level Tesla shit.
Yeah, man, it's all about the branding. But what is it that he's actually doing?
All right, check this out. He posted this. Free energy isn't actually free. This is a misnomer. It's actually a mutual exchange from the vacuum, a field of energy from which everything arises, the same energy that powers an atom. Like what? Bro, that's some deep shit. But then he breaks it down. He says you can tap into this energy without breaking any known laws of physics by using something called back EMF capture.
Whoa, back EMF capture? Sounds like some serious sci-fi tech.
Dude, listen to this. He explains that when a coil collapses using a pulsed signal, the energy that would normally just get wasted, like just dissipate as heat, can actually be recycled. He says nature gives you back energy to stabilize the system, which makes sense if you think about how nature works. Like everything in nature is always trying to find balance, right?
So equilibrium, is that like how water always levels out or something? I'm trying to remember what Ms. Murphy said to me in 6th grade science all those years ago. What was that? Oh yeah, Elon, stop eating that glue and pay attention. Man, if only I had listened, I'd probably be the one inventing energy recycling instead of just talking about it.
Exactly. So he's saying that by intentionally destabilizing the system, collapsing the field, you actually get energy back as a kind of natural response. And here's where it gets wild. He compares it to pushing a swing. If you push at the right moment, you don't need to use a lot of energy and the swing gains momentum. But instead of a swing, he's using resonance to harness that extra energy without it becoming destructive. He says most traditional systems are like a surfer fighting against the current, while his method is like riding the wave to shore.
Dude, that's crazy. So he's basically saying the energy is already there. I just suck at using it efficiently?
That's what it sounds like. He's basically saying the way we harness energy now is like trying to swim against the tide. And if we used resonance instead, we'd be tapping into energy that's already there, just waiting to be used. I don't know, man. Either this guy is onto something or he's the most poetic bullshitter of all time.
Well, if he's legit, why isn't he all over the news? I haven't heard anything from him on X, formerly Twitter. He hasn't said anything bad about me on X. So, you know, I didn't ban him or anything. Look, I'm not the monster my therapist says I am. I mean, sure, I've spent millions of dollars training to beat a kangaroo in a fist fight, but that doesn't mean I'm dangerous. It just means I get shit done.
That's the real question, man. But here's the craziest part. I looked into him, and he's not selling anything. He open sources all of it. That's the real question, man. Either the system doesn't want to hear it, or we're about to find out if this guy disappears in the middle of the night.
Dude, that's crazy. He's absolutely crazy. That means if he's telling the truth, anybody could build this in their garage. You know what I say? Go fuck yourself, Benefactor.
Nope, no patents, no paywalls, just straight up, here, take it, see for yourself. Like, what kind of madman does that? Usually people either try to cash in or they get shut down before they can say a word. But this guy, he's out there on live streams showing people exactly how to replicate it.
I mean, if you want to try to take on my Tesla tech, how dare you put out better technology that is cheaper and safer? Go fuck yourself.
That's the thing, man. If it's real and people start building it, that's a game changer. We're talking about completely shifting how we think about energy. But also, if it's real, you got to wonder how long before somebody tries to stop him.
Or maybe we can think of it like how long before his Tesla mysteriously malfunctions.
Exactly.
Hey guys, how you doing?
Every time someone gets too close to this kind of stuff, they either disappear, get discredited, or somehow have a tragic accident. But this guy's going full transparency mode. He's putting it all out there where everyone can see it. Maybe that's his strategy. If enough people know, it can't just get buried.
Holy shit, this might be one of those moments, you know, like we look back and say that was the start of something huge. Can't you hear his voice?
In the depths of the unknown, radio waves
Simplify what we know. Hidden truths we're never alone. Follow me down the rabbit hole. Secrets and binding codes. Breaking the mold, define control. Power bursts without a soul. In this digital catacomb, we spread the truth of the truly bold. Epics we uncover, forbidden undercover. Rise against the silence, breaking through defiance. Energy from the ether flow, quantum realms, the science of flow. Whispers from ancients echo, gravity's on hold, let's go. Beyond the reach of their woe. Slowly with you ever come, bridge the gaps, all I shows. Rise against the silence, breaking through defiance. In the depths of the unknown. Treated like a toy. Ideas misunderstood, but brilliance is his point. Benefactor boy, can't you hear his voice? Talking about 0 point, the points lost on them. Kevin structures crumbling from the same old stem. They laugh like I'm crazy, but I see it all so clear. Exploited labor, unheard, injustice burning ears. Fighting for a change in this wasteland of noise. But they call me foolish words, ancient boys. Benefactor boy, dreaming about the world he can't avoid. Changing the system, but treated like a toy. Ideas misunderstood, but brilliance is his point. Benefactor boy, can't you hear his voice?
Alright, welcome, and welcome back. They say that what goes up must come down. But why? Is gravity some mysterious attractive force that magically reaches across empty space to yank apples off trees and make planets play follow the leader around the sun? Or is it time we stopped talking about being pulled around? Today on the Benefactor's Guide to Free Energy Devices, we're tearing into the mainstream model of gravity like it's a stale science book. Because maybe, just maybe, gravity doesn't pull. Maybe it flows.
In a world where innovation is stifled by greed and corruption, there lies a hidden truth that could revolutionize our way of life.
Lenny, what are you doing? Are you seriously pitching a new show right now? I didn't authorize this. My God, only 5 minutes into your new position as co-host, and you're already adding to my tight schedule.
Yes, sir. I manage that schedule. But I did notice you have an entire 2 days available during your week.
Wait, you're not talking about Saturday and Sunday, are you?
Of course, sir. You have 2 whole days where you're free to work on new content.
Lenny, those are my days off.
It's okay, sir. I know you'll manage just fine. I have faith in you.
Do robots have faith?
I do. I have faith that you won't screw it up again.
You know what? It's fine. Go ahead. I'll just build my cold fusion Lego set some other time.
It's pond certified.
But I'm not telling them about my idea for a thunderstorm toilet. I'm gonna keep that baby close to my chest.
You know, that just sounds wrong.
It's a good idea. A toilet capable of turning any toxic human waste into, well, it turns into petroleum jelly.
Why petroleum jelly, sir?
You know what? I'm not sure. I don't think it's calibrated correctly.
Enough is enough. The world is at a breaking point. Catastrophic climate change, biosphere collapse, and a global energy crisis have been met with apathy, denial, and despair. The phrase unidentified flying object is a deliberately obfuscating term. What it really is an alternative energy and propulsion device. This is the real reason for the secrecy. These technologies, if they were disclosed, would end fossil fuels, pollution, and poverty overnight, and usher in a new era of abundance, freedom, and peace. Instead, they have been kept secret for over 100 years.
The more powerful the agency, the more powerful the group, the more powerful the cartel, the more they will resort not only to legal means, but to extra legal means to suppress their competition.
I said pretty early on, the problem is suppression. It wasn't really how do I make a free energy machine. It's how do I not get suppressed? Because what's the point?
Microscopic ball lightnings that when they discharge are tapping into that 0-point energy field and creating the motive force.
Boom! That's why the concussion from the thunderclap is so huge. There's this huge amount of energy that's actually sourced from the vacuum energy. All the dots connected. This is what's happening, right? So we need to make the thunderclap engine.
Imagine a future where clean, sustainable energy is not just a dream, but a reality. Discover the countless untold stories of free energy devices and the relentless battle against those who seek to suppress them for their own gain.
Black shelving. So someone comes along, they offer you $20 million for your device, it's a corporation, they put it on a shelf. Boom.
This power is something I have given my life for you the people.
Uncover the shocking tactics used by energy industries to control the narrative and maintain their grip on power.
You don't interfere with the big, powerful people. You don't put them out of business. They still have those 50-year leases on the lines and all the power transformers.
Environmental Protection Agency is a bit of a dictatorial police agency.
A shadowy government with its own Air Force, its own Navy, its own fundraising mechanism, and the ability to pursue its own ideas of the national interest, free from all checks and balances, and free from the law itself.
This is real, usable power. It's stable. It is not transient. It is not noise. Behind the lamps, that little box is putting out all of that power, well over 500 watts, and yet it is receiving less than 1/3 of a milliwatt of input power. The rest of that power is coming out of the surging energy of the vacuum. And this little box that you see right here, solid state, no moving parts, is the vacuum triode that's doing this very practical and historical work.
But indeed, it put out more energy than it took in. He was shot at once with a silenced rifle from about 300 yards. It reads like a James Bond movie, but it's real.
There are men here that said they're FBI, and they got black vans, and they're taking all this equipment. What should I do?
It's called capture, where they try to rationalize away this problem and everything's fine.
From manipulation of patent authorities to infiltration of government agencies, the truth is stranger than fiction. But amidst the darkness, a glimmer of hope emerges in the form of renegade scientists and inventors who refuse to be silenced.
There is absolutely no question that T. Henry Morey had a system that produced about 50 kilowatts out of a 55-pound box.
In the shadows of capitalism's dark secrets, join us on a thrilling new show. Get ready to be inspired, enraged, and empowered as we delve into the Benefactor's Guide to Free Energy Devices.
Only on Beneficence TV.
All right, so everybody knows Einstein's famous equation, E equals mc squared. But did you know that this very equation, revered like Holy Scripture, is only half right? Yeah, I said it. See, Einstein believed that mass and energy were two sides of the same coin, but he didn't quite grasp what the M really meant. He thought mass was intrinsic, a property of the object itself. But what if mass isn't really what we think it is? What if mass, and therefore energy, is more about pressure around the object? What if mass is a reaction to a flow? What flow, you ask? Hold that thought. Let's revisit a childhood myth first. Vacuum cleaners. You all heard the official story, they suck, right? But they actually don't. Air pressure pushes the dust in. It's not a pulling force. It's a push from the surrounding medium. This is a pressure differential at work. Just like how air rushes into a vacuum-sealed bag when it's punctured. Now apply that same concept to gravity. What if we're not being pulled to Earth, but rather pushed by an invisible flow, a current of particles cascading into the planet? I know it sounds wild, but stick with me for a minute. According to this emerging paradigm, gravity is the result of electrons, or more precisely, accelerated neutrons that become electrons, flowing into the Earth. Not just metal objects, everything. You, me, the chair, your cat. This isn't magnetism, it's pressure from the vacuum of space itself. Space isn't empty, it's dense, structured, almost like a fluid. Tesla called it the aether, a hidden sea, a medium for light to travel through, a lattice. And when Earth or any large body disturbs this medium, the aether, or the sea of potential particles, flows towards it. That flow is what we call gravity. So if particle flow explains gravity, was Einstein wrong? Well, no. He just didn't have the whole picture. You see, Einstein described gravity as a curvature of space-time around mass. However, in this updated theory, the curvature that Einstein described isn't a fundamental thing. It's the effect or illusion created by an underlying flow of tiny particles around a mass. To understand fully, we must take a trip back in time. In 1915, Albert Einstein redefined gravity forever with his theory of general relativity. He proposed that massive objects don't pull on other objects through an invisible force, as Newton suggested. Instead, they warp the fabric of space-time. And this curvature tells matter how to move. Objects, including light, follow the curvature, like marbles rolling along a rubber sheet distorted by a bowling ball. This elegant model explained planetary orbits, gravitational lensing, and time dilation with stunning accuracy. But here's the thing. Einstein's equations work beautifully on the large scale, but they fall apart at the quantum level. In the realm of atoms, particles, and fields, general relativity lays silent. Quantum physics speaks a different language, and gravity refuses to translate. So, again, was Einstein wrong? No, he was brilliantly right, but possibly incomplete. So, what if the curvature he described isn't the whole picture? Just the visible result of something deeper, something flowing. That's where fringe physics and alternative theories come in. Many researchers and like-minded thinkers, outside the mainstream but far from irrational, propose that gravity could be the net effect of a flow of tiny particles streaming through space. Not curvature itself, but what looks like curvature due to subatomic pressure differentials caused by this flow. In other words, the bending of space-time might just be the illusion created by how mass interacts with a cosmic current of ultra-fine particles. This isn't a new idea either. Ideas of a particle-driven gravity go back to Lesage back in the 1700s, who proposed that an invisible sea of particles pushes objects together by bouncing off and being absorbed by matter. More modern variations suggest that neutrinos, virtual particles, or even unknown subquantum flows could be at play, creating what looks like gravitational pull, but is actually a push from directional energy. Now enter my good friend Phil Bouchard, a brilliant independent researcher and personal friend of mine. Researchers like Phil propose that gravity may actually consist of multiple components, possibly 2 or 3 distinct but interrelated forces. According to Bouchard, this multi-tiered gravity could operate like a spectrum, with each component dominant at a particular scale. Let me explain further. At large scales, such as galaxies and black holes, general relativity holds up. Space-time curves, light bends, time dilates, as Einstein predicted. But at quantum scales, we need something else. That's where another component might dominate, a subatomic or wave-based gravitational influence of some sort. And between these two scales could lie a mesoscopic layer, one that begins to bridge the gap, hinting at a unified theory that could accommodate both. This type of out-of-the-box thinking approach proposes that gravity isn't just one thing. It is a blended phenomenon of flows, forces, and geometry. And it may depend on context, much like how light behaves as both a particle or a wave, depending on how you observe it. So, in this framework, Einstein wasn't wrong. He was describing the macroscopic result of a deeper invisible flow, the flow of the aether, perhaps even something that cannot be observed directly, but instead only through its interactions. In this context, space-time curvature is a surface-level effect, a reaction, not a cause itself. And mass may not pull other mass. It redirects or blocks the flow of these fundamental particles, resulting in what we perceive as attraction, much like the theory of magnets twisting the aether, resulting in invisible currents that we perceive as attraction or repulsion. And I'm going to play a video clip of understanding magnetism so you understand a little bit more. But with this new lens, everything is aligned. We can see nature is nothing but a fractal of itself. Self-repeating patterns from the tiny to the big, as above so below, as within so without. Give me a minute. I'm going to load the Understanding Magnetism chapter of my 0 Point Energy video. Nature utilizes energy. It does not waste energy. Magnets are nature's over-unity systems. If you calculate the amount of energy it takes to pulse a magnet compared to the number of years it can sustain itself against its own weight in gravity, you clearly get more energy out than put in. I think a lot of this has to do with the diminishing study of the ether. The dismissal of such a critical component, such as the ether, leads us astray. When thinking about magnets, north and south poles, it's best to think about them as inflow and outflow. When you think about it this way, it makes more sense. Why do opposite poles attract? To understand this, we must first look at this analogy.
So we hypothesized that there was some sort of current circulating in and around the magnet, analogous to the current circulating in a coil of wire, and that this was the cause of attraction and repulsion in the magnet. But currents of what? We hypothesized that the vacuum of space was filled with a fluid of some kind, what you humans used to refer to as the ether. We speculated that these special objects were able to spin up the fluid ether in and around the magnet, generating currents that would then result in attraction and repulsion, analogous to what we saw in the coils. To test this hypothesis, we spun a couple of cylinders in a pool of water and watched their behaviors. Here is a video of one of these experiments. In this video, the cylinders are spinning in opposite directions. The spinning cylinders generate currents in the water surrounding the cylinders. When these cylinders are spinning in opposite directions, the currents generated between the two cylinders will be moving in the same direction. Therefore, according to our rule, same attracts. The cylinders should attract, and they do. In this experiment, the cylinders are spinning in the same direction. Again, this is going to generate currents in the water surrounding the cylinders. When the cylinders are spinning in the same direction, the currents generated between the two cylinders will be moving in opposite directions. Therefore, according to our rule, opposites repel, these cylinders should repel, and they do. So, it seems plausible that the function of the magnet could in fact be described by and explained by fluid dynamics.
Alright, so now that we have an understanding of magnetism, let's go back to gravity for a moment and use a simple analogy. Imagine you're standing in a river. Water flows evenly around you. You feel no push. Now imagine putting a giant boulder downstream. The flow of the river changes. It bends, it swirls, and creates pressure differentials in the medium that we call water. A leaf caught in the current no longer floats straight. It gets nudged towards the boulder, not because the boulder pulls, but because the flow is altered. Now scale that up. We're talking cosmic scale. Gravity could be that current interaction, and large masses like planets or stars are the boulders in the river. And the leaf? That's you, me, and everything else in between. This opens the door to a unified model where general relativity and quantum mechanics aren't contradictory, but just different views of the same flowing system at different magnifications. A system with gravitational flow variable pressure gradients, and possibly phase transitions, like how water behaves differently as stream, liquid, or ice, depending on conditions. This would also mean gravity has a spectrum-like behavior, with intensity and character that shifts depending on energy scale, mass density, or even electromagnetic interaction. So where does this leave us? Well, it means the door is wide open. It means gravity might not be a law carved in stone, but a living field, misunderstood, layered, and alive with flow. Einstein gave us the map, right? But pioneers like Phil Bouchard and many others ignored by the mainstream might be sketching in the details we couldn't see before. And maybe, just maybe, the universe isn't being pulled down into wells of curved space-time, but pushed, shaped, and guided by currents too subtle to feel. The real question here is, are we ready to look in the right place? Okay, let's get into the juicy bit. Why do you, a carbon-based, water-walking, biological radio tower, fall to Earth when you trip? Well, it's simple. Because you're made of atoms. Atoms displace space. Displace the medium that is the vacuum, the empty space around you. And that pressure of that medium pushes back. Think of it like being underwater. Your body resists the pressure of water from all sides. But imagine now the Earth was like a cosmic drain. Electrons, light, and space itself flowing in like water down a vortex. You're not being pulled, you're being carried by the riverbed beneath your feet. And this flow doesn't discriminate either. Whether you're a rock, a rubber duck, or a watermelon, if you displace the aether, the flow pushes you inward. This is why everything accelerates downward at 9.8 meters per second. Not because the Earth is whispering sweet nothings across space, but because the pressure of the vacuum is flowing down, and you're in the way. Simple as that. It's not an attraction, it's an immersion. Einstein made a blunder here, a beautiful, poetic, half-right blunder. He confused the velocity of gravity with the velocity of light. You see, C in E equals mc squared, C being the speed of light, 186,282 miles per second, is real. For sure, it's real. But it's not the speed of light alone. It's the speed of electromagnetic waves. It's a wave in the medium. That wave being the aether. And here's the real interesting thing. Light isn't even considered a constant in velocity. It starts from zero, it's born from stationary neutrons in the fabric of space, then accelerates. If you don't account for that acceleration process, for the time it takes light to reach that speed, you miss the entire mechanism at play. And Einstein didn't factor that acceleration time in. He slapped a velocity on the equation without addressing its origin. And when you separate velocity from the forces that produce it, you get what I like to call mime mathematics. Mime mathematics is when the equation put on a fancy board, seeming to explains the universe, but it's like watching a magician pull endless scarves from a hat. It's impressive and it describes what's happening, but the trick hides what's actually going on underneath. In other words, it describes how the universe behaves, but it does little to explain why it behaves that way, because it's missing an essential piece of the puzzle, what Tesla called the luminiferous aether. So now we're going to talk about the aether for a moment. Once upon a time, physicists believed the universe was filled with an invisible, all-pervading medium called the luminiferous aether. The stuff light waves supposedly traveled through, like water carries ripples, or how sound requires an atmosphere to travel through. Remember, in space, no one can hear you scream because there's no medium for sound to travel through. So think about it for a moment. Every wave that we're familiar with, like sound waves, water ripples, or seismic waves, they all require a medium to travel through. So what does light require? Well, pioneers like Nikola Tesla once thought light was carried by an invisible substance that exists everywhere, even in the vacuum of space. Light was thought to have needed the aether, just like waves need water. Without it, the universe would be silent and still. Early experiments to this aether medium, to detect this aether medium, most famously the Michelson-Morley experiment, failed to detect it. Einstein dismissed the aether, declaring it unnecessary. And later, physics embraced its clever cousin, quantum field theory, which is a kind of mime mathematics version of the aether. The distinction matters because quantum field theory doesn't truly explain why the universe behaves the way it does. It simply repackages the aether into new mathematical frameworks, treating empty space as a dynamic stage for particles and forces to appear. But every wave, including light, needs a medium to propagate. And by hiding that medium in abstract equations, physicists are only seeing the result of interactions with that invisible force they have ignored for so long, leaving the fundamental puzzle of how energy and light actually move unsolved. But fast forward to modern times, and the aether, or its modern mime mathematics cousin, quantum field theory, is back in the spotlight. At the Advanced Propulsion and Energy Conference, or APEC, on YouTube, researchers revisited the Michelson-Morley setup. They realized that the original experiment had been conducted along the wrong axis. They flipped it perpendicular to the axis it was conducted on, which was the x-axis, tweaked the conditions, and suddenly the aether drift pattern appeared in the results. The signal that had been hiding for all those decades appeared in their experiment. It worked like this. Okay, so imagine the Earth is moving through a river of invisible water. That's the aether. Light is like the little boat traveling across it. The Michelson-Morley experiment tried to measure whether the boat went faster or slower depending on the river's flow. Originally, they tested the river's main axis, the x-axis, and saw nothing, no difference, which made scientists think that the river didn't exist. But when modern researchers tested across the y-axis, they finally saw the subtle drift pattern, tiny wobbles in the light waves, like the ripples a boat feels when the current hits it from side to side. So what this tells us is that the aether isn't a fixed stuff that slows or speeds up light along the Earth's path. Instead, it's more like a flowing medium, mostly hidden, that only reveals itself under the right circumstances. Light itself isn't being pulled or pushed in obvious ways. It's carried along the invisible river of space itself. Whether the original null result was a genius mistake, or just bad luck, or deliberate misdirection is still up for debate. What's clear is that the universe might just be filled with this subtle flowing medium, the very stage on which light, matter, and energy dance. And for our purpose, it's a perfect example of mime mathematics. What once seemed like invisible trickery now has a real tangible foundation hiding in plain sight. We're going to bring it home here with Tesla's connection to the aether, okay? Tesla didn't believe in empty space. He believed in a radiant medium, the aether, a medium that exists everywhere, even now in this very room, but I'm not talking about the Matrix. The luminiferous aether is a medium where energy could be pulled or pumped from, where hot energy dissipates to and cold energy radiates from. Remember, energy cannot be created or destroyed, only converted from one form or another. The aether, in this sense, acts as a transitory phase between usable energy forms. Regarding Tesla coils, they don't just broadcast current, they disturbed the lattice of space. It's noted by Tesla coil pioneer Nathan from Old Man Builds, Tesla coils aren't made for pushing out energy like we commonly see them used for. They are made for pumping energy, pumping radiant energy, sucking in energy from the environment, or what John Bedini might call energy from the vacuum. By carefully placing a wire inside the Tesla coil, Nathan found that with a proper configuration, the wire will act as a pump for this radiant energy. Instead of pushing energy out in the form of these plasma arcs we commonly see, it's now pulling energy into the system from the vacuum. You see, when you disturb space properly, in phase, it responds accordingly. That kind of response that doesn't deplete but renews. Not with heat, but with cold radiant energy. That's the whole basis of a permanent magnet. You're taking a pressure differential that exists in the quantum fabric of the object. That pressure differential twists the fluid aether around the object, creating an invisible current or flow within the medium of space. An invisible current that can only be detected with the introduction of another magnet. Although we can't observe the aether directly, we can observe its effects on these objects indirectly. For example, if you take two cylinders and spin them in a pool of water, as we've seen in the video earlier, what happens if they spin in the same direction as they come close to each other, right? I'm sorry, what happens if they spin in opposite directions? They come close together because they're creating a current between them in the same direction. That's how the fluid aether works, kind of like hydrodynamics. Classic teachings will tell you that magnetism is simply nothing more than the proper alignment of the domains within the object at a quantum level. However, yet again, we see that this doesn't actually explain the phenomenon. It observes and describes what's happening, yet does little to tell us why magnets actually attract or repel. Atoms line up all the time in different materials. Why are some materials magnetic and some aren't? Magnetism is said to come from electron spin, but spin alone can't explain why the forces reach across space. Without a medium, like the aether, to carry it, the story just doesn't hold up. So, in conclusion, because I know that I put a lot out there for you to digest. Let me boil it down like this. If gravity is a push, a flow, then so is energy. Maybe, just maybe, radiant energy, gravity, magnetism, time, and light are all different expressions of that same etheric flow. The electron flow into Mother Earth. That means every electron you see was once a neutron floating in the invisible ocean around us. They told you mass attracts mass. They told you light moves at a constant speed. They even told you space was empty. But maybe it's time we unplug from that old matrix. Maybe gravity isn't a pull, it's a plunge. And maybe, just maybe, the truth flows. This is Bren, your friendly neighborhood science man, the Benefactor, bringing you yet another mind-bending ride through the fringe, the forgotten, and the future. We are now going to take a short commercial break, and when we come back, our Friday power panel featuring Terran Earthling, Lexicon, and Mike Does. If you liked today's episode, consider subscribing, sharing, or even teleporting this channel to your favorite physicist professor. Stay tuned for more, right here on Beneficence TV.
This video was bang on brilliant stuff. I'll give it a shout out in my next video. I've forwarded it to Malcolm to check out too.
The viewers have spoken.
What an amazing documentary. Thanks for producing it.
Never seen this all tied together so well. Gonna share the heck out of it. Bravo and thank you.
Divine Science is officially a hit.
Amazing stuff, very nicely presented. New sub who can't consume your content quick enough. Great video, dude. Keep at it, you are doing the good work.
You did a great job putting this all together. It's a great overview, goes into amazing depth at times, so it's interesting for the larger swath of people. Well played, sir.
Okay. So I didn't sleep last night because I watched this 3 times and binged the rest of the channel. You have fantastic instincts for piecing concepts together. Almost every section was something I was already familiar with in a different context. And this documentary was the thread connecting them all.
Join us on a journey into a place of hidden knowledge. A place where science is stranger than fiction
Thank you so much for the super chat. I really appreciate that. That's awesome.
In the depths of hidden files, trapped inside the secret circuits, unraveling through the miles, oh, truth was masked by golden curtains. You didn't know, we're shattering the silence, feel the power, revelations on the rise. From the shadows, light emerges, breaking
Hey guys,
through the veils of
I'm just getting ready for
dark.
the live stream, so give me a few minutes. We're gonna get ready to go live in maybe 5-10 minutes.
Revelation start, ancient whispers call.
Awesome. Yeah, I appreciate you guys for joining me. This is really awesome.
We stand tall,
I don't know where Mike is. He might not show up, but he might.
all their lies. You didn't know, we're shattering the silence, feel the power, revelations on the rise.
So yeah, no, I can't wait to see it. We're gonna not go too long because I gotta work early in the morning, but yeah, no, I'm gonna give you guys an opportunity to introduce yourselves and then present whatever you want or
Forbidden knowledge, we dare to see.
Power panel.
Unveiling secrets, setting minds free. In this epic, we
I'll be
play
right back.
our parts with fierce hearts. You didn't know, we're shattering the silence, feel the power, revelations on the rise.
My fellow Americans, I want to talk to you about something that has been a topic of much debate and unfortunately too much misinformation. For decades, we've been told that our future depends on scarcity, that our energy needs are limited and must come from a select few sources, many of which are polluting and inefficient. But I'm here to tell you, it's time for us to rethink the very foundation of how we view energy. The idea of free energy devices has long been dismissed as fringe or in some cases outright conspiratorial. But it's important to recognize that this is not a new idea, nor is it a pipe dream. It's a scientific possibility that many credible thinkers, including Lieutenant Colonel Tom Bearden, have been trying to bring to light for years. You might not have heard about it in mainstream circles, but those who have looked into it, real scientists, real engineers, are showing us that we can tap into an energy source we've barely scratched the surface of. The vacuum. Yes, the vacuum of space itself, a limitless field of energy that, like Nikola Tesla once envisioned, could power our world without the need for fossil fuels, without the need for waste, without the need to pay for energy at all. It sounds like science fiction, but it's grounded in real, proven science. And yet, for far too long, it has been suppressed. This isn't just about new technology or gadgets. It's about a revolution, a true industrial revolution that could lift us into a future of abundance, a future where energy is not controlled by a few, but accessible to all. That's why I'm asking you to start rethinking what we've been told. We're no longer calling it free energy. We're calling it energy recycling, because that's what it is. It's harnessing the natural forces that are all around us and making them work for us. I know it may sound radical, but it's time we ask ourselves why this hasn't been part of the conversation until now. Why have those with the power to make a real change in our energy systems continued to push for scarcity instead of abundance? Why has this potential been buried in favor of systems that benefit a few at the expense of many? I believe it's time we change the narrative. We have the knowledge, we have the tools. This is not just about science. This is about our future. The energy revolution is here. It's time we embrace it. Thank you. God bless you. God bless America.
All right, you guys ready? All right, hopefully, yep, okay, everything's working. Welcome back, everybody. We have a very special power panel for Friday's podcast. We have Taryn Earthling and Alex Loosman, or famously known as Lexicon. So, gentlemen, thank you both for being here.
It's a pleasure to be here with you, Ben.
Yep, big pleasure.
Well, I can assure you the pleasure is all mine. Why don't you guys take a moment to introduce yourselves?
I'll go first. Well, I've been getting to know you guys over the past few months, and I've been studying free energy in my own time since about 2009. I kind of dabbled in everything that I could. And over the course, I found myself contacting and volunteering and helping with a lot of different inventors and engineers, especially connecting inventors with engineers. I did a little work in contract manufacturing at an electrical engineering plant, so it's where some of my experience comes from. But really, I just have this passion for off-grid technologies. If I could, I would just focus all my time into permaculture. But I truly believe that electricity is one of the things that could make permaculture so much greater, and I want to make that something simple and freely available to everybody. So it's a little bit about who I am and my interest. How about you, Taryn?
Nice.
Yeah, I'm a research gatherer. I study history of inventors, like right from the 1700s, like through electrical history, anyways. And I also study flying saucers, technology, fusion, field antenna technologies, hydraulic analogs of circuits and how the fields react to those circuits. Pretty much a lot of things. I also am also a permaculture lover. I love permaculture. It is my favorite topic before I even got into this. So, but anyways, yeah, I guess that's pretty cool. That commonality is amongst many of us.
Nice. Well, you two are going to fit right in. So I hear you guys have a couple things you want to discuss or present.
I had a couple interesting tidbits of information I thought would be relative to the gravity discussion. And Taryn was telling me that he was looking into Eric Dollard's work where he discusses the theory of anti-relativity. We know Eric Dollard's not the biggest fan of relativity. And as a result, neither am I. I've studied Dollard quite a bit. I got to work with him as well. And man, did he not have anything very nice to say about Einstein's theory of relativity. What did you find interesting about it?
Eric Dollard's an absolute genius, though. He's brilliant. I've seen some of his videos.
Yeah, man knows his stuff.
Yeah. And then I brought to the table just a couple experiments I thought I'd bring up. I thought they were interesting. I could dive into those.
Yeah, no, we don't have too much time, but yeah, no, I would just like to do a brief power panel tonight. So yeah, no, bring up anything you guys want or just to discuss.
Well, this is something that everybody else can definitely look into. There's an experiment that was done in 2004, the SAS drop tower experiment in the Brennan drop tower in Germany. And something that was very interesting was they made this long tower so they could evacuate it, test materials at zero gravity, you know, because they're falling at free fall. And some guys decided to test the, SAS, Dr. Sass, he decided to test the rates at which different materials would fall. He got banned from using this thing ever again because of the experiment. He dropped several materials in the same container, no air resistance involved, and you could see that lead, carbon, and lithium did not fall as fast as the other materials. And did the experiment quite a few times and recorded it. It's cool to look at. The other thing I think I wanted to mention was that, Bruce De Palma, he did the N machine, which was a version of the homopolar generator of Faraday. And he found that when spinning flywheels, he would get some strange time anomalies on clocks that were placed at their axis and some weird weight anomalies. So he started shooting cannonballs at spinning at really high RPMs, found that a cannonball spinning very quickly would go up faster and come down faster than the same cannonball not spinning. I thought those were some really interesting experiments that fit into the idea of gravity not being the way that Einstein sees it, at least. I don't believe that the fabric of space is really a thing. I think people want to call space a thing because we don't like using the word ether. And I like the push ether model.
I completely 100% agree. I'm old school in that sense. I like to remind people that, like words have meaning. And there's a reason why we use words specifically, like why we, there's a whole branch of science, etymology, that's dedicated to, the origin of words and knowing where words comes from, it's important. So spreading that ancient tradition in some instances, like, not renaming the aether specifically,
Yeah, and not renaming the word space. I mean, space is a place. It's a place where things can be, but it's not a thing in and of itself. So when we call space a thing, we're taking away our ability to have a reference frame that's neutral to the things that exist in it. And yeah, I think ether was just fine. It fills all space, but it's associated with magic and all other sorts of reasons. Who knows why Einstein faux pas it so hard? But I'm glad that we're bringing it back.
Yeah, I'm very, very strong advocate on pushing certain words, like or rebranding certain things, like how I'm kind of trying to push the rebranding of free energy to be energy recycling, because that's technically what it is in most cases that we see these free energy systems. We're just recycling energy that's already there that's being wasted,
Yeah, we live in a sea of it.
I was researching the Thomas Townsend Brown lab notes, and his idea of all this excess energy from the ether was neutrinos, and he claimed that they weren't all penetrating. He was capable of using heavy elements to stop the penetration, and then what would create a neutrino flux within an electret system he was making. And what he would do then is, because of that, he would make semiconductor electret as well, and he was able to. He says, like, because he's only tapping a bit of this energy, it was enough for his systems that he was using. for his electrets, and he claimed that this was like not power from the sun, but this was a galactic power source, like a galactic cell. And I think a lot of this excess energy is just somehow capturing, slowing down neutrinos. And he claimed that what happens is when you slow it down, it creates a neutrino flux within it, and then it turns into electron flux, and then you extract that.
Interesting.
So, yeah. So you should. Oh yeah, you should really go through his notes and check it out sometime.
I also highly recommend those notes. T.T. Brown's personal notes.
So it's the neutrinos that are creating the pressure differentials at that scale.
Yeah, and because like he's claimed that the heavier elements and the heavier dielectrics are capable of slowing it down. It was able to tap that energy.
Interesting. Yeah, that's fascinating. T. Townsend Brown, he was the one who had the flying discs, right?
Yeah,
the T. Townsend Brown effect.
Yeah, he was creating a separation of what he called gravitational and inertial isotopes, and they had different electrostatic charges. You could separate them using centrifuges, and the elements that ended up floating up to the top instead of going down to the centrifuge were the lofting materials that he would use. He did other methods too. He was capable of making elements into gravitational isotopes, but he would then store it inside an electret, and then he would hit it with a charge and create a lofting effect. And what it was is that well, I'll go through it sometime with you with the notes, because it's better off that way, or I'll just end up butchering it, right? Because pictures back all that up.
Yeah, no, sure. To avoid, like misquoting or misrepresenting his work, put together a small presentation and come back, and we'll have a proper, like setup where we'll have enough time for you to go through the details.
Right on.
Yeah, if I can add, those notes of his personal notes, not many people have gotten the chance to look at them, and I highly recommend them, because Thomas Townsend Brown's mostly known for the Byfield-Brown effect. Byfield was like his teacher. He was mostly the one who came up with it, Brown. And it was like using a capacitor to create thrust, or to affect gravity using basically a capacitor on like a spinning, apparatus, so he could test how much you could affect inertia or gravity with the capacitor. But the stuff with the lofting materials is not as well known, and it's fascinating. It's really good stuff. Also very much tied to electrets, which is another whole fun field. Yeah, I think it's worth a deep dive sometime.
Awesome. Yeah, if you guys have any links, feel free to post them in the chat.
Cool. Yeah.
Well, you guys have anything else to discuss?
No, I pretty much covered what I really wanted to get out there, and yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, this was a real pleasure.
Yeah, no, this was great. I know it's short, but I got to work early tomorrow, and I just wanted to have you guys on and have the opportunity to, like have a power panel and discuss gravity, because I think this was a really fascinating deep dive, this podcast, and I found out a lot of interesting things that I didn't know before.
Mm-hmm. I did too, studying for this. I had to brush up on my notes, and things have progressed. This was fun. Thank you for the opportunity, Ben. Hope we get to do this again soon.
Oh, of course, yes. Next week power panel, I'm going to plan it for the same time, 7 o'clock. I know it was a little late today, but 7 o'clock on Friday is usually the good time for me.
All right.
Right on.
All right, gentlemen, I appreciate you, and stay tuned for more Beneficence TV right here. Oh, yep, we're no longer being broadcast. Okay. Oh, hold on 1 second.